Welcome. This is Joe from ToughPigs.com, and we have a couple of very special guests today. We have the producers behind the new documentary Street Gang, Ellen Scherer Crafts and Trevor Crafts. Hey, guys. Welcome.
Hi, Joe. Thanks for having us.
Of course. Thanks for putting such a great movie together. I'm really excited to talk about it. I think the people who've seen it have a million questions, and the people who have not seen it, well, I hope that they're driving far out of their way to go see it in one of the theaters that already has it up. So first things first, the big question, why Sesame Street? You could have made a documentary about anything.
Yeah,
so
a lot of people
how'd
do
you
make
hone in on
documentaries
that?
about anything and everything. People in caves and triplets and
True
all of
crime,
that.
a lot of true crime.
Oh yeah. No, I mean I grew up with like 5 generations of other children. I grew up with Sesame Street, and as Ellen and I were looking for a project, our company Macrocosm is really all about building worlds. We have a lot of original IP that we do, and these very unique worlds that we create. And then also we love to showcase worlds that were built. And I read Michael Davis's book as sort of part of an exploration is, find things that really inspired us. And I think I was just so blown away by how much I didn't really know about the creation of Sesame Street. I'm a super fan, so it's like, yeah, I know everything. Grover and I share a birthday. Like, this is easy. I'm gonna, and also I assumed that it had already been done. Like, there already had been sort of like the documentary about the origins of Sesame Street. But as I read sort of page after page, like, I had no idea who John Stone was. I'd never heard of him before, and I was so amazed by what I didn't know. And that's when I handed the book to Ellen and I said, you got to read this book, because I think there's a lot more here than just a story about Muppets.
Yeah. And I felt the same. It was so interesting to learn about something I thought I knew so well, and to get this new understanding of, again, I always knew Sesame Street was a nonprofit and that they were on public television, but just understanding really the origin of why it came to be, and this amazing purpose that Lloyd and Joan had in educating preschool children, but really also intentional about reaching children of color in the inner cities that were being left behind by education due to racism and poverty. I thought that was just so important to talk about. And I thought that was definitely where we wanted to do this film. It was really about the origins. And so we contacted Michael Davis, and the rest is history.
Long history.
Yes, it was not a short period of time.
I'm also a huge fan of Michael Davis's book, and of Michael Davis. He's a great guy.
Yeah.
Amazing.
But I'm curious why you felt that it needed to be an adaptation of the book as opposed to like your own thing. Like, what is the actual connection there between the movie and the book?
I mean, I think a lot of times when you start something, like any field, it's always good to have somebody that's in your corner that can answer the questions before you even ask them. And I think for Michael, he will, I'm on record as saying, he will forget more about Sesame Street than any of us will ever, or he'll remember more about Sesame Street than any of us will ever forget. It's just like, he knows so much. And, it was really because of Michael that we found that we got our access, to start talking to the workshop too, because they had really loved Michael's book, and, it was a good pairing.
It was intentional because, again, in approaching a subject like Sesame Street, and obviously we got the idea in reading Michael's book, so it felt very natural to reach out to him. But also, Sesame Street is known for their research and extreme dedication to concepts and development. And so we thought it was really important to make sure that we did the same thing in approaching this film. And that just felt like a very natural connection. And to Trevor's point, once we optioned the rights from Michael for the book, we got a call from Jeff Dunn, the former CEO of the workshop, and basically, hey, what are you guys doing? And let's talk.
What are you doing here?
We would love to talk.
Yes,
this is great. Yeah,
it was
like finding someone in your backyard and like, hey, are you supposed to be
That's
here?
Right. I've never met you before, and I'm a little nervous. And you seem okay, but I got to ask you a lot of questions.
But it was the start of a really wonderful trajectory of us just, telling the workshop about the intention for the film, and then the workshop allowing us to get access to archival. And then, so between like having the research, Michael being so generous and letting us have access to his research, we were really able to then get that same access with the workshop and then the Jim Henson Company as well. And so it really helped us lay a foundation for how we wanted to move forward with the film.
Yeah.
Sure. So what was Michael's participation in the actual making of the film?
It's interesting. I mean, Michael, it's hard. I think it's hard for an author to have your work optioned. I mean, just generally, I think that's a hard thing. As much as we think that Hollywood is like such a fast moving, like place, it's stuff's getting made all the time. It's a lot of patience that's required of any author when their work is optioned. I mean, some authors get their work optioned 5 or 6 times before a movie is made out of their work. The options expire and it keeps going. But Michael I think did an excellent job of being there and available for us when we needed.
He's a real resource.
But then also not sort of pushing his agenda, because he really did understand that it was going to become something new. It was using the sort of core of his work, but it was its own thing. It's its own life. It's like another generation.
I think that's right. I think it was the inspiration, right? So we definitely took the foundation that he had, and he was a wonderful resource to us. So it was we developed very quickly, as you said. We love Michael. We just developed this amazing friendship and working relationship where we could just reach out to him and ask questions. He gave us a lot of introduction to people that he had interviewed, which was wonderful. And again, all of that amazing research that we had. And then we could ask questions of him, which was invaluable. And Marilyn, our director, Marilyn Agrello, they could have conversations around some of the things that were in the book so she could get a better understanding. It was a very symbiotic and supportive relationship that we had, and I think that shows in the work.
Yeah, I think it absolutely does. Speaking of people who are in the work, you mentioned John Stone a few minutes ago, and well, first of all, I want to show my appreciation for your decision to really put a spotlight on John Stone, who, we all know, the fans know, and people at Sesame know, that he's like the influence on the Sesame Street, the television program. But he's never really gotten a good spotlight. I'd love to know more about your choice to spotlight him, and also like some of the other folks like Jeff Moss and like people who were such a huge influence, but have never gotten the spotlight because they've always been overshadowed by the Joan Gans-Coonies and Jim Hensons of the world.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, if I'll go first on this, it was, as again, we were developing this origin story, what became clear was that there needed to be what came clear was there were these pillars of which the gang was built. As you know, our film focus is really on the people, right? We really wanted this to be a story about these rebellious in the way that they were using media and television and really kind of challenging the system of what was expected at that time. And, we wanted to tell the story of the people and what it was like to work there and what it was like to develop the show. And you can't do that when you really get into the history. You can't do that with really understanding Joan, Jim, and John, because they are this triad, these 3 pillars with which we built the story and really introducing the rest of the gang to the audience in the film. And in there is the other J, Joe Raposo, right? So, you have these amazing J pillars that are in there. And, we thought we were so fortunate that Kate and Polly Stone were so gracious to come and be interviewed so that we could really, it was very important to us to be able to tell John's story authentically and to get that from the family as well. And they put a lot of trust in us to do that. And we were really very grateful. And it was so necessary because to tell that story and not have the people who knew him the best, right, to be part of it would have been a big missing piece, I think, to the film. And then just kind of going back, and I'll let Trevor get in on like the people, we had to make a decision around in the film. There's so many people that contributed to Sesame Street. And you mentioned Jeff Moss, and that's a great one. I mean, my gosh, musical genius talent. But, we only had 107 minutes to tell the film. And so we had to be very choiceful around having people be representative as well of that particular sector.
Mm-hmm.
So the writers and the music and things like that. And then we took special attention at the end of the film to try to list every single person that we knew was involved, because we wanted everyone to get that recognition. But for storytelling purposes and time, we had to make some decisions around who we were going to showcase.
Yeah. And I mean, I mentioned it earlier, like, you know, I never heard of John Stone. It's essentially like if, you know, Steve Jobs created Apple and the Macintosh computer, but what you didn't know was that there was this other guy named John Smith that was like actually the one that gave him the idea to do it. You know, it's at that same level of impact, I think, for most audiences. And obviously Steve Wozniak and there were people in that analogy that also helped him, but a person you never heard of before, I mean, like that would be a crazy revelation in you know, for something like that. And I felt it very much the same way for Sesame, is that, you know, here's this person that was so like shockingly integral to the concept of what made this show iconic. And I had no clue who he was. So I think it would have been a disservice to the film and to the world if we didn't actually highlight him and bring him forward as part of this. Because, you know, as Nick Raposo, Joe Raposo's son, says in the film, you know, if all of these people weren't together at the exact right time, you know, Sesame Street would never have happened. And that's a 100% accurate representation, because you could have had a show with Jim Henson's Muppets and it would have been lovely. And that was called Sam and Friends, and it was crazy and it was zany. But if you didn't have Joan's idea and you didn't have the sort of creative filter of John Stone to be able to say, here's this idealistic concept that I'm totally good with, and then bring all of his thoughts and artisticness to then channel that through Jim to get to the end product, like you'd have a 2-season show.
Well, because John is the connection to Jim Henson and to Joe Raposo.
Right.
Of course,
right.
Yeah.
So to have that, you know, so that's exactly right. I mean, and he was, you know, we all know that, you know, Brian Henson says it in the film, Jim Henson was never really interested in doing a kid's show.
Yeah.
But he had this deep friendship and relationship with John Stone. And so, and, you know, Joan brought John on, and then, you know, John brought in his people, and again it's such a symbiote, and it's such an important connection that we're really so happy that we were able to highlight.
Absolutely. If hypothetically, if you were going to do a sequel, who would you want to focus on? Who would be your John Stone of Street Gang 2?
Well, I know yours probably is Evelyn Davis.
Yeah.
I
would love to do a whole doc on community outreach. I mean,
it was so groundbreaking.
It was so groundbreaking, and it was, you know, it was doing what we all should be doing today, which is going out to the community that you want to serve, which is children of color, you know, with people that are of color, to ensure that what you're doing is what actually serves them, right? And get their input and feedback. And that's what Evelyn Davis did. And she managed this entire team of outreach. So the media vans and the in-school work, you know, where they were showing the show. I mean, I just find it fascinating. And I wish that we could have spent more time on it just in general, because, you know, a lot of and maybe even carried through to methodology of what's being done today on the show. You know, it's really important, amazing work. And they started it in the late 1960s. You know, that was something that no one was doing. And I think it's just such a critical piece.
Yeah, people.
Me, I'm sorry. I would just totally have a Joe Raposo doc.
Mm-hmm.
I fell in love with him as a person, and it just, some of the quotes in the film, and we hope everybody goes to see it, are some of the most authentically beautiful things that I think anybody's ever said about the show. And it's just, that was all of his interview, which we found very surreptitiously through a, you know, back channel, you know, this interview with him. And he was just such an amazing musical savant that we just like literally like just barely scratched the surface of his volume of work, you know, even after Sesame. toured with Sinatra. I mean, it was like he was like the guy. It was bananas.
Yeah, there was. I think we had at one point like a good 40 minutes of Joe Raposo.
Oh, it was a full. I had a full. Yeah, we had a full like micro doc. We had a full hour long
between
sequence.
the musicians and Joe. It was like, oh,
Yeah.
okay, we gotta make some choices here.
I mean,
Because
that's the kind of
musical
thing.
variety show.
That's the kind of thing like where when I watch the documentary, and of course, like I understand the importance of the entire story. You can't tell the story without the full arc. But there were these little bits that I just knew, like stuff like that. The interviews with Joe Raposo and especially like all that amazing behind the scenes footage. It's like there's gotta be. If we were really living in the era of the DVD again, to have like bonus features where it's like, yeah, we're just gonna give you 3 hours of just fun stuff. Here you go.
The good news is we're going to give you about 16 minutes of bonus features in different ways, shapes, and forms. The DVD, which comes out, I think, in July, like July 6th, I think it hits pretty much everywhere.
Great.
That actually has all of the DVD, all the extras on the Blu-ray and the DVD. That'll have all sorts of great bits, and a lot of it, a bunch of it's about the music. And about the sound of Sesame. So we were able to get a little bit more into the Joe Raposo of it all in the extras.
And there will also be some extras on when it goes on demand as well, right? So on some of the on-demand platforms, there'll be some extras and on demand on May 7th.
Yeah, so. Perfect. I love it. I'm looking for
bloopers. Yeah, more bloopers.
It's like I envision
bloopers.
There's a closet somewhere at Sesame Workshop that has all the tapes that no one's allowed to see, and it's like all those.
It's not a closet, Joe. It's a vault.
We heard about a lot of those. Believe me,
there's like a retina scan, and then there's like a key code, and then your thumbprint, and it's a lot.
Yeah.
Oh, that's what I want. That's all I want.
We tried. I'll say this: we tried a lot to get those tapes, and they did not give them to us.
I regretfully understand, and yet. Of course. I'm going to pull a Mission Impossible.
Not that we would have put them in the film,
Right? Yeah. No, of course. That's just for us.
But I mean, also, it's like that's that is part of why we put the bloopers in was it is to showcase the people. These were adults that made this program. And I think Bob McGrath. I don't think it's on camera, but essentially, he was mentioning that Frank Oz said, we never do this show for kids. We just perform for short people, and that was very true. I mean, all of the humor was designed to be for adults and for kids. It was designed for co-viewing. And then for us to be able to show these outtakes, this was their work family. I mean, you produce 130 episodes, hour-long episodes, a season, which is a bananas amount of television. I mean, it could never be done today.
Yeah.
And you're with these people grinding every day. I mean, this is your family, this is, and you're having fun with them. And I think that for us was
huge, huge fun and frustration, right? I mean, you see that in some of the bloopers. And I think, again, that's exactly what Trevor said. I mean, what we want people to see from the film is that these people were working on a purpose that they all felt was bigger than themselves, right? And this was long hours. And sometimes it was at the sacrifice of their own families. We have a couple of the children that talk about not seeing their parents because it was all about putting the show up every week. Yeah. And, and in those, can you only imagine if you're working on your, 17th hour of the day and you're trying to get this skit done, you just you crack up or you snap or, all of those things. So again, those were intentional. They're super fun to watch, but they're also intentional because of their human beings. This is the gang doing the work under pressure to get a show done. And we can all relate to those moments, right? We all have them. And we thought that was really important to show as well.
Yeah. Joe Raposo says in the film, he's like, it was all of us working. Or maybe it's Chris, I think. Chris Surf. We were having the time of our lives.
Yeah.
And that, I think that's the part where so many.
And Joe says there were no hours to the day.
Yeah. Yeah. Just was always on.
Yeah.
And I think that is one thing when you do what you love, you work 24 hours a day. If you're working a day job, that's 9 to 5 or whatever that is. But especially when you're in entertainment or the arts and you love it, you never turn it off. It's always on. And we wanted to get some of that feeling, in the film is, I wanted to be there Like
Yeah.
I wanted to be on that set watching our movie, and I've seen our movie like 747 times, but I want to be part of that crew, and part of that set, because it's people that love what they do.
Yeah, and that's something I really appreciated that you guys put a big focus on in the film is about the fun that they had, the fun that they created, and I compare it to something like I don't know if you saw the ABC documentary, the 50
Yeah.
years thing from a couple days ago,
Yes.
which was terrific. But that's more about like the important work that we do, and again, like that's very important, and I'm super glad that they made a whole documentary about that. But as like an adult fan, I want to know about like the jokes and the songs and the camaraderie and the bloopers and the puppets and like all that stuff that like I really fell in love with as a kid that helped carry me through to be an adult fan. So yeah, so I very much appreciate the fact that that was a big focus of your movie.
Well, I think also if one of the things I think is great about documentary and about memory, we all have this concept of the show that's sort of stitched into the fabric of our hearts. I mean, you can't get rid of it. Everybody knows Sesame Street. But then you take these old memories that you have, and then you like link a new wrapper around it, about intentionality or about creativity or about co-viewing, and all of a sudden like your memories changed forever in a good way. I mean, it's
about changing the world, and with our film, like we really wanted it to be like Sesame. We wanted to put some medicine in the candy so that to give us all of that nostalgia and that happiness, but also to go back to the fact that we want people to be inspired by this idea that people came together with a shared social consciousness to do something that was good, and they used creativity and media to do it. And we all don't have the tools or even the ability to do something like that, but we all have the ability to do something good in the world, and we hope that people make that connection. And that was really our purpose in doing it.
So in the movie, I think most people are going to notice and talk about Oscar the Grouch calling Carol a bastard, making references to sex. It's great. I'm so glad you put it in the movie. Thank you for that. Was there anything that you planned on having in the movie, or at least like got your hands on, that you went, oh no, this is way too far? We can have Oscar call Carol a bastard, but this was too much.
I think there was one clip that was like a little bit, it was more innuendoed. It certainly wasn't even, I mean, for adults, you would be like, oh, but it wasn't even anything, nothing was said even. It was that one we were like, yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be okay with that. And other than that, though, I mean, really, we were so, we were just so happy that we were able to show, again, these creators doing what they do. That, I mean, Fran says, you don't know what's going to come out of your head when you got the puppet on, Fran Brill, these things come out of your mouth.
And you see that because that's in the interview we did with Carol, and it's like that, that was just extemporaneously happening. And again, what we did, because we're an independent film, we went around with the intention of what we wanted to do to show the story and show that these are humans. This is a film for adults, so, and for older children can watch it, or a PG, but it was about like showing these people as who they are. And we were so fortunate that we were able to do that, and that because we thought that was key. If we weren't able to do it, it doesn't really connect you in a human way to these people and what they created. I mean, you could, but it was great that we were able to do, because it's the full circle.
Was there anything that Sesame Workshop said gave you a hard no on?
Overall, honestly, like we were so incredibly fortunate to have a really great relationship. I don't think anything. My main contact was Jody Nussbaum at the workshop. I have to give her a shout out because she was like
the greatest ever,
and she constantly would take my call.
Over 6 years, it's
it's a long time.
That goes a long way, by the way. Like
it is a long way.
Like you answer my call every time. Like you're in my good books forever.
Exactly. Totally. And and I mean, the list goes on and on with the people at the workshop that were just so amazing. And I think again, it came down to trust. I mean, we from the very beginning, Trevor went in and said to
I said to Jeff Dunn in the first conference call I had, we're not going to ruin anyone's childhoods.
Yeah.
and just coming from that place of intention, we were just, that's a good basis. It's like, we loved the show as much as everybody here. And, I think at one screening, Jeff said, we're all stewards of Sesame for a period of time. And we felt very much that weight of, Joan started it, and then she hands it off, and John does it, and he hands it off, and Jim does it and hands it off, and Joe hands it off. And we all hand off that period of time that we help. And for us, we had our period of time in bringing this origin story to life. And, we hope that we can pass the story on, and the messages that we wanted the audience to know about, from creativity to inclusion to intentionality to all the different things that made the gang so great. We want to give that to the next set of stewards as they continue along.
For sure. Yeah. All right, we'll wrap up very soon. I have a couple of quick questions to throw at you, but were there any characters or episodes or songs, probably more characters than anything, that you didn't know that you loved? You didn't know that you had a real appreciation for this until you made this movie.
I think that there were certain characters that I like. Harvey Knee Slapper from the Muppet world. It was such a bananas character. And, and then it was like, we're not doing him anymore. He's no good, but it was just, I think it was some of the bits where you felt like you didn't remember a specific character and why they were there, why they weren't there, how they came in, like Raul Julia was a cast member for a period of time. It's just like all of these people that came in and out that you were like, I didn't know they were part of the show back then, and then, rediscovering old friends always. I mean, it's the one joke I got in that I was like, I'm the producer, I can put in what I'd like, and I have to find a way to edit this in. Was the Guy Smiley sketch that's in the movie about Count and Guy Smiley. I won't ruin the joke, but it's how can you not love?
I know the punchline every time, and it gives me a belly laugh, like a genuine belly laugh.
Yeah.
And for us, we were very, again, like, you get caught, for us as well, like the nostalgia that you have in looking through all of this media and seeing it again, and that connection that you have to it from watching it as a kid, was just, there's a lot of layers for us too. And again, we were very also intentional in wanting to bring forth the Roosevelt Franklin Muppet and to talk about his story, and, obviously Matt Robinson. And again, that's where we got really lucky to have the Robinson family participating in the documentary, because they really wanted to talk about it too. And again, it's so much more meaningful to hear it from them than to have our perspective on it, is to get their perspective. And again, we're so lucky to have Holly Robinson Pete, Matt Robinson Jr., Dolores Robinson, all talk about what that meant to them, but also, what it meant to the show. And what it was really, we always knew that we wanted to do that, but when we really got into it and got to talk to them about it, it just was a whole nother level.
Yeah. All right. And final question, what's next? Are you going to do a Fraggle Rock documentary now? Salmon Friends?
Funny,
you can do Salmon Friends? That would be a good one.
I know, right?
We'll see if Lisa's into it. I think the thing for us is it probably will be another documentary that's coming up. We want to try to announce something soon, but it may or may not involve puppets also, but in a very different kind of a way. So we're hopeful that we'll get that one up and running, and that it won't take 6 years for everybody to see it.
You say that now.
I know, right?
But we'll be talking in 2027, and you'll be saying,
please. Oh, come on, Joe. That's just mean.
I'll tell you what, if we learn anything through this pandemic period, it's just to go with the flow, right?
Yeah, that's right.
It'll happen when it happens. And we're just so incredibly grateful, to talk to you today. And, you've been with us since the beginning. We had initial conversations from the start when we had this crazy concept to do this film. And we're just so pleased for ourselves and for everybody that we're able to get this out, because it wasn't easy, but it was definitely worth it.
Well, thank you very much for that. And thank you guys for making such a terrific film. I hope everyone goes out and sees it if it's at a theater near you. If not, it probably will be very soon. So keep an eye on, it's at Street Gang Movie, I believe.
Yes, streetgangmovie.com or any of the social handles at Street Gang Movie. We would love to have you guys as followers. and like our pages, and it'll be on demand on May 7th.
Yeah.
So just
On
around
most
the corner.
platforms.
Cable,
and on
everywhere.
DVD in July. Is that what you
On
said?
DVD in July.
Yeah.
Great. It's going to be everywhere. You can't miss it. There will be a point in which you'll have no excuse but to go see the film.
Correct. Zero excuse. That's
Watch
right.
the film.
That's
Thanks,
right.
Joe.
Well, thank you again. Terrific film. And hopefully we'll get a chance to talk to you guys again soon.
Awesome.
We
Thanks,
love
Joe.
it.
Thanks
Thank
so much.
you.
Thanks.